probably the only video where I'll be wearing a backwards baseball hat. Hey friends, today I'm going to attempt to answer a question I get asked more and more frequently. As people discover the channel and discover Philip Fracassi, inevitably somebody will say, where do I begin with Philip Fracassi? You'll see it on books of horror, you see it on social media. A lot of people want to know, with their TBRs as substantial as they are, what's that one book they should start with to determine whether or not they are a Philip Fracassi fan, and if they should put their energy toward investing in a new author. Trust me, I'm somebody who doesn't take up new authors all that often, and nothing pisses me off more than a poorly written book that wastes my time. So I'm not going to do that to you. But if you're here and you're wondering where you should begin with Philip Fracassi, let me walk you through some of my thoughts. Now, you may have seen my previous video, 5 authors you need to read if you love Stephen King. And you may remember that Philip Fracassi was one of those authors. And when I did that video, I had only read Boys in the Valley and Commodore. I laugh because I've read so much more now. And based on those 2 works, I said, this guy is the real deal. He is the next Stephen King. And that has only solidified the more I've read from Philip Fracassi. Currently, I've read 8 of his novels, 2 of his novellas, and 2 story collections. And the thing I love about all of those books is they are very different. The one consistency through all those books is that Philip Fracassi is a great author. He's a great writer. And I'm not disappointed. I'm never let down by a Philip Fracassi story. But they strike different tones. They get at different emotions. Some ratchet up the horror, some ratchet up the heartbreak, but they all deliver. But that also represents a challenge when you're asked, for example, what is emblematic or indicative of the Philip Fracassi experience? Just like going to an incredible restaurant where you know the food's always good, but there are different meals you can order. Sometimes it's the steak, sometimes it's the pasta dish, sometimes it's the chicken. It's all different flavors, different recipes, but it's always delicious. It depends on what you're in the mood for when you open up that menu. So the same thing applies here. What are you in the mood for? I could recommend any Philip Fracassi book and know that you're going to get a stellar reading experience. But what are you in the mood for? So I'm your maitre d', I'm your waiter. You know, I'm the who's going to recommend the great wine pairing. Now that I just thought of that, now I wish I had recommended beer pairings with this. Just get Rapture beer. There's actually one beer that pairs directly with a book, but I don't have it. Actually, there are 2 beers, Witch Tree and Beers in the Valley, but you're going to have to seek out Mitch Holt and get those beers. So in order to answer today's question, where do you begin with Philip Fracassi? I'm going to start with, what are you in the mood for? And then talk about each of the titles as it pertains to that mood, that appetite. If you're in the mood for coming-of-age horror with a battle between good and evil, you got to get Boys in the Valley. This is my first read from Philip Fracassi when it was the Earthling title. This is the trade edition. This is actually the arc of the trade edition. But this book ratchets up the horror and the heartbreak. And there's nary a dry eye in the house when you're done reading this book. You get very invested in the struggles and the battles and the lives of the children in this orphanage in the turn of the century Pennsylvania Valley. And I'm not kidding when I say Philip puts you right there in the valley. It's claustrophobic. It has elements of The Exorcist, The Shining, Lord of the Flies, some really gruesome horror scenes, and a lot of thrilling action. This is a great read if you want your horror with a lot of heart. If you're in the mood for a crime thriller, police procedural with notes of body and cosmic horror, then you gotta get Child Alone with Strangers. This is his biggest book to date, and there's a lot of escalation between these covers. You can almost chunk it into different types of genre of fiction. But it all escalates to an ending that's just nuts. It does deal with a child with telepathic powers and a gang of no good kidnappers with this incredible showdown at the end. I love this book. And it opens with one of the most brutal openings that really just crushes you, flattens you, right in the beginning of the book. Damn! You really feel for Henry, and you'll get invested in the main character almost immediately. Great read. Keeps you guessing. I remember when I started this and I got to one resolution of the storyline, and I thought, how can there be so much more book left? We've solved it. And boy, was I wrong. This is a crazy thrill ride. I do realize, I really don't recommend this to new Fracassi readers off the bat because it is the largest investment of time, but it's a great read. I really don't have any hesitation recommending this book to literally anyone. If you're looking for something that's much more straight up old school horror, you gotta go with Gothic. This is the most gleefully dark of Philip Fracassi's works that I've read. It is straight up horror. You're going to wonder who you're rooting for by the end of this book. And one thing I love about what Philip Fracassi does is that he subverts reader expectations in the best way possible. He doesn't do something crazy and off the cuff just to keep you guessing. It's grounded in some established set of rules. So it's never like completely out of left field where you're wondering, oh, okay, so this is crazy. No Deus Ex Machina, whatever. There's no God machine that plucks the character out of harm's way. His abrupt turns are very satisfying, and this book has them. I'm holding up the Cemetery Dance trade edition paperback. You can get this. I recommend it because it's the only one you can get currently. If there were any more Earthling editions, that'd be the one to get. But those are pricey, and you're just starting out, so what am I going to do? If you're in the mood for some horror with historical elements and a whole lot of the supernatural, then you got to get Serafina. This is an awesome read, and much like Gothic, you don't know who to root for, but you're totally invested in every character in this story. What a crazy collection of people, including Serafina, Titus, and the brothers. This book's about three brothers who are deserting the Confederate Army during the Civil War. They're trying to get home. They're being hunted by Confederate forces for abandoning the army. They're being hunted by the Union forces for being Confederate soldiers. And they just don't want to fight anymore, so they're trying to get home. And they come across this cabin that seems too good to be true right when they're at their most desperate. And that's where Serafina comes in. A really epic Trek journey historical horror. Love everything about this book. I read a very early version of this, so I have not read the current edited version, and I cannot wait to. This book is just now shipping from Earthling Publications as of posting this video, but it is some of Philip Fracassi's best stuff. If you're looking for something that has a huge sci-fi component, but it's also a thriller that is super creepy in parts, this is probably the most terrifying sci-fi novel I've ever read, then you need to get Third Rule of Time Travel. Right now, the book's not out. This is an advanced review copy. This book comes out March of 2025. This is my absolute favorite Philip Fracassi book. It is a bit of an outlier because none of the other books have a huge science fiction component to them. This follows the story of a scientist named Beth, and she's invented, along with her husband, a time travel device. It operates under some very particular rules. Rule 1, travel can only occur to a point within your lifetime. Rule 2, you can only travel for 90 seconds. And rule 3, you can only observe. Dudes, love this book. I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it. I am way overdue for a reread. I think I'm going to make this a book club book in my Patreon. So there's so many great things about this book. I can't go into it without spoiling anything. But I love this book. This is one of my absolute favorites. Obviously, if you're starting your Philip Fracassi journey today, you're going to have to hold off for a few months to get this. But if you're watching this in April of 2025, I would go for this. If you're looking for a book that goes deep into the human experience, you want something, Jeff, I need something literary. I need something profound. Then you've got to read Don't Let Them Get You Down. I know I just said Third Rule of Time Travel was my absolute favorite Fracassi, but that was a total lie. This is my absolute favorite Fracassi. It is, like Third Rule, an outlier, more so than Third Rule, because this is not genre. This is very literary. And I put this book up there with The Road, Butcher Boy, The Painted Bird. I know I'm probably forgetting some other heavy hitters, Confederacy of Dunces. This is absolutely brilliant. I would save this if you're in the mood to really go deep into the psyche of a human being. Not a light read. I had to sip it in parts, not because it's gore or horrific, but because it really gets to some fundamental things about anxiety and depression. I just had to pause, put it down, walk away for a little bit, get back to it. Love this book. Just one of my absolute favorite books from any author. So I put it out there. If that's you want to go in the deep end of the pool right away, there you go, jump right in. And then, of course, if you're like, all right, I just want a sample pack. I want a small plate. I'm looking for some tapas. Then you got to go with a collection. And the current one out right now is No One Is Safe. I believe Laird Barron said no one is safe in a Philip Fracassi story. And that is true. But it's not just the people in this story. It's also the reader. These are some really wild, out there stories. A lot of fun, a lot of horror. My favorite story in the book is Row. And it's also the longest. But this is some great stuff. And you'll get a sense of what Philip is capable of. There's pulpy stuff. There's some sci-fi elements. There's cosmic horror. It gives you a good sample pack to read. You could also read, the only other collection I've read was Beneath the Pale Sky. That's amazing as well. And if you're like, Jeff, I just want to read one short story, what would you recommend? I would recommend Alter. This is soon to be a movie by A24. I think they just wrapped up filming recently. They're in post-production. It's going to be amazing because it is based on the source material from one of the best authors writing right now. But it's also by one of the best filmmakers making films today, A24. So Alter is, if you have to read one short story by Philip Fracassi, it would be Alter. This is in his collection, Behold the Void. So you could jump to that as well. But just to put a bow on this, you cannot go wrong with any Fracassi. He's in the kitchen. He's got the chef hat on. He's preparing you some gourmet meals. Open up the menu. What do you have a taste for? Coming of age horror, historical horror, just some old school horror, something that's more along the lines of a thriller, something that's got sci-fi, a huge sci-fi component. Whatever you want, you can find it on the menu. But I'll tell you what, no matter what you start with, you're going to be like, man, next time I come back to this restaurant, I'm going to try everything because you're going to be hooked. And you're going to understand it's a lot of hyperbole and exaggeration when you say somebody's the next Stephen King. But once you read Philip Fracassi, and you'll see what I'm saying. And I think the vast majority of you will be nodding your heads along with that assessment. So I hope this gives you a place to start. I'll link to the books in the description. You can get your copies from wherever they're available. And I'm going to apologize in advance for creating your new addiction. Since reading Boys in the Valley, I now have 2 shelves of Fracassi titles. And I'm running out of space. But it's been some of the best reading I've had in the last 3-4 years. Incredible stuff. So that's all I got for you today. Thank you for joining me this time. I hope to see you again next time. And in the meantime, stay frosty.